Crash Bandicoot, one of the most well-known and most played 3D platformers of all time. Now, I've been wanting to make this video for just under a year now, and it gives me great satisfaction that I can actually do that now. Because when I first started YouTube, I wanted to make Crash Bandicoot stuff, and this is exactly what I wanted to do. Now that I can do it, I am doing it. But this video is gonna be on the Insane Trilogy and how it holds up against the originals, which is a very out-of-date concept, especially for everybody else on YouTube. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy making this, and for you that like coming back to my videos every time to see something new, I very much appreciate it if you would watch this video. If you're new, feel free to subscribe, but now I'll get right into the details of Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot started out as a 3D platformer project by Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin. They were looking to make a 3D platforming game as they were trying to compete with Super Mario 64 and other mascots of the time, such as Sonic. The main inspiration for Crash Bandicoot was actually the Looney Tunes Tasmanian Devil, as you could probably see, seeing as Crash Bandicoot spins. But they wanted to choose a Australian marsupial that the Sonic franchise hadn't already taken, so they decided to go with a Bandicoot. After they had chosen the Bandicoot, they had to come up with a good design for the character, you know, something that would be memorable and people would hold dearly for years to come. So they ended up going with a very much Looney Tunes looking style of Crash, which was later on changed in the final release of the game due to hardware limitations. So then here came the original Crash Bandicoot. Now obviously people would have been quite confused at the 3D concept, and it was a decently hard game to play, as they were renowned for being hard. 21 years later down the track, in 2017, Vicarious Visions and Activision decided to release a remaster of the first three games, which was Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, and Crash Bandicoot Warped. Now these were classed as the three best games in the whole series, which I would highly and most certainly agree with. I enjoyed these three games the most out of any other. But seeing as these games were already 21 years old, they had to try and bring it into the modern light a little bit. You know, make it good for newer audiences to play, as well as all the older audiences to play for that nostalgic feel like I did. So their grand idea for all this was, well, getting a few new designers in. They actually ended up asking Naughty Dog what they thought of the game when it was about to be released, and Naughty Dog said it was pretty good. They said that they had a few problems with it just because some things weren't quite as they planned for the original games, but Naughty Dog had already lost the rights to the game at the moment, and you know, it was a whole new company that was beginning to bring Crash back to life in the modern era. So after development, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy was officially announced to the public to be a PlayStation exclusive. Now, whether this has actually happened or not, I mean, depending when you have seen this video, I think it's going to stay a PlayStation exclusive just because of the history of the games, but we all know Activision and they do like to get their money's worth, so I would not be very surprised if they ended up porting this to other consoles as well, just so they can make an extra buck. So when they released the first game footage of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy at E3 2016, people were completely amazed by the fact, and they were really hoping that this wouldn't be another letdown game, as a lot of people were saying after Twinsanity, Crash of the Titans, and Mind of a Mutant came out. I don't have a problem with Mind of a Mutant or Crash of the Titans. Twinsanity I do have a few problems with, just because that game was very buggy, and it was made by the same people who kind of started the Crash screw up in the first place with Wrath of Cortex. But seeing as these were a whole new developer called Vicarious Visions, who had only ever worked on the Game Boy Advance Crash Bandicoot games, people had a fair bit of hope for it. They thought, you know, maybe Crash will come back and maybe he'll be better than ever, like they're saying he will be. So I remember, because I never saw this footage at E3, I saw it when I was just browsing around on YouTube, and I saw a few videos being uploaded on Crash is Back. Of course I thought it was all fake, because the amount of people who have all said that Crash Bandicoot is back is an absolutely ridiculous amount, and it just turns out to be hoaxes or fan games. But seeing as this was an official game, and I saw it uploaded by Activision, I found it very hard to believe that they were bringing them back after this long. So really, after I pre-ordered it, so for when it came out on June 30th, 2017, I played it and I was having a ball with it. I was having a great time. You know, I had a lot of memories come back out of it, and I was just really enjoying the game in general. Um, but along the way, I did find a few problems that weren't as big in the original games. And of course, you'd think that the original games would be more buggy just because of the age. Like, they've aged. They've actually aged quite well, but controls-wise, not really, especially the first game, considering that still used a D-pad and the four set buttons: X, square, circle, and triangle. But since then, the original games have held up a bit, and they have had a bit of a legacy behind it, which again, other companies have sort of ruined over the years. So I am glad that they did do a much better job at this game, but they did have bugs. And those bugs were with the hitboxes. They were much more curved than before. So if you went and tried to land on a platform, you'd probably slip off the edge. And this was mostly noticed in the levels the High Road and Road to Nowhere, as you need very precise platforming even in the original to get through it unless you did the rope glitch. Now, seeing as not everybody wanted to do the rope glitch and everything had curved hitboxes on it, it was extremely hard to actually do it even the legit way when it was nowhere near as hard in the original. Therefore, owning this game the name of the Dark Souls of platformers. Do I think it's the Dark Souls of platformers? I definitely think it was. It was very hard when it first came out. It was harder than the originals. The controls were a little bit floppy to me, but they have fixed that up since. So the reason I did kind of leave this review till much longer is because of these changes, because a lot of people were giving it a hard time because it hadn't had these changes yet, but now they have changed them. Now I can also view the after aspects of it as well. So after these problems were fixed, many people were a lot more happier with it, and I ended up playing the High Road and Road to Nowhere again. They are still painfully hard levels, but they aren't as painfully hard as they used to be when the game first released. Now, I have to say there are a few things I am actually going to applaud Vicarious Visions for, which is probably going to be their art style. Now, their art style does work very well, especially with the box art, because the original box art was going to be very sort of bland. I mean, I wouldn't have really had a problem with it, because, you know, Crash is back. That's all you need, really. And when they released the first box art, I was actually just amazed at that. But then when they brought out the new one, I was like, okay, that's a bit cool. It represents all three games a bit more. Now, seeing as this started up a bit of a crash trend again, this game actually sort of put my channel a little bit more up there. And what I mean by up there is not so much up with everybody else that was very much more popular, but it just helped me get a little bit of a step ahead, because that happens occasionally. You make a video, you get a step ahead, you take a few little steps and then you take a big one. But this game was bringing back a lot of nostalgia. The game isn't really floaty or anything like many of the other Crash Bandicoot games were. It's very nice to control. You can use a joystick in all three games, whereas you can normally only use them in Crash 2 and 3, although they were still designed for the D-pad, as not everybody had enough money to get the controller with joysticks back in the late 90s. Now, that is all I really have to say for this video, but I really hope you all enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe if you want more videos like this. You know, like and comment what other videos you'd like me to make. This was just a very one-off video. But also, I have been dormant for a week, and I am thinking for a 100 subscriber special if I should show my face again. So if you guys want to see my face, if that's really a reward for you, then just ask for it, and I'll get around to it as soon as I can. But that's all I wanted to say for today. Please subscribe, like, share with your friends and family, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.